Hi again then guys, and welcome to another look to the second game in the Test Drive Unlimited franchise, TDU2 of course, and this car is one which I would call a unicorn in a general sense, but especially when it comes to the game, because it's the kind of supercar, or just exotic in general as all Spykers are, which isn't necessarily the most obvious choice of vehicle to use within its category, that being A2 class, but at the same time it's the kind of car that those of us who do like it generally really do like it a lot. Now the car in question is not your average Spyker, and when you can call any Spyker average in comparison to another one, it kind of means that that one must be a bit special, and that's what this one is. It's one of the rarest, most specialised, most exotic, I guess you could say, Spykers of all, even though they all are exotic for sure. I'm a huge Spyker fan, I love them as a brand. My favourite is the C8 Spider variant of the La Violette. This one though is the C12, designed by, as the name suggests, Zagato. Now Zagato has a very distinct design style, especially with the double bubble roof that they fit to a lot of their cars, like the DB7 Zagato that was featured in the first game. I love that feature. I think that double bubble roofs and rear windows look fantastic. The Peugeot RCZ is another fantastic example of that kind of roof. Now, this one takes an interesting approach to the rest of the car as well, because Spykers, if you look at them in general, be it the La Violette, the Aileron, various others as well, they're very round, they're very curvy, and they kind of flow, the design. This one doesn't. It's very sharp, very aggressive, and it's not angular as such, but it almost has a little bit of Pagani-esque vibe to it, with the nose cone that's clearly F1 inspired. Even the back end looks a little bit more Zonda-esque than the original Spyker models do, and there's a kind of Koenigsegg flair in there as well, just a little bit. So this is a very interesting one from a design point of view. It's certainly very eye-catching, it's very unique. Even something like the C12 La Turbi doesn't look quite like this one, even though it's a similar kind of top echelon supercar of the range, if you will. Now this one's powered by a 6-litre instead of the 4.2-litre Audi V8 that you typically find in most of Spyker's best-selling models, like the Spider, the La Violette Coupe. This one's got a W12 of 6 litres, so interesting engine configuration, again similar to the La Turbi. 500 horsepower, which perhaps isn't quite as high as you might expect from an engine that size, but still, Spyker isn't really about being the absolute most powerful thing around. That's one of the reasons why I like them, and it's putting out, I would say, probably a more impressive 450 pound-feet of torque, or just a fraction under, technically. Now the weight on the car is pretty good. Again, not surprising for a Spyker. They use lightweight construction, so the fact that this one only weighs 1,480 kilos isn't too surprising. Not that that's super light by any stretch, but that is lighter than, for instance, a Lamborghini Murcielago in comparison. Now the horsepower per tonne is only 338, primarily of course because of the fact that the power is not quite as high as you might assume it would be, but given that something, for instance, such as the La Violette with only 400 horsepower is already a car that can hit 187 miles per hour or thereabouts, then that actually bodes pretty well for this one. Now the performance on the C12 Zagato is really good. In fact, it's one of my go-to cars for the A2 category because it's a good all-rounder. And one of the things about Test Drive Unlimited which some other racing games overlook, or at least gloss over for some reason, is that it's not just about the performance. With Test Drive Unlimited, the cars and the bikes are about much more than that. You can get plenty of cars that you can win a race with, but some of them go above and beyond that. Stuff like your Spykers, your Paganis, your Koenigsegg's, cars which don't just win, but they sound good, they look good, and they feel good while doing so. They really are the entire package of what should make a great supercar, and that's one of the reasons why my favourite experience in any game of driving a Pagani Zonda is on Test Drive Unlimited 2. The Zonda F feels, looks and sounds, especially sounds, fantastic. This one doesn't necessarily sound quite that good, but of course with that engine it's going to be a little bit more muffled, it's got a little bit more of a burble to it, it's a bit more raspy, it's not this howling V12 or a screaming V10, it's just not that kind of motor. What you do get though is performance which is similar in some ways to something like, say, an Ascari KZ1 for instance, similar kind of shape, similar kind of exclusive feel. You're looking at around 200 miles per hour, 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, so again, fairly standard supercar stuff, especially for the 2000s. What makes this one go above and beyond that, I mean, at the end of the day, you can buy plenty of cars with that kind of performance, a Nissan GT-R for instance, but as I said earlier, it's the whole package when it comes to a car like this. And it's not just Spyker, Pagani and Koenigsegg who are in that category. There are others too. Zenvo, for instance, is a perfect example, because they're cars which go above and beyond. Not just in a game, not just in a race, but in the real world. They are these boutique, you could say very justifiably, rolling pieces of art. And I would say that Spyker maybe even goes in some ways above and beyond Pagani even. Pagani has incredible attention to detail, and technically they might still be the better of the two, but some of the design flares that Spyker have, especially when it comes to their interior and all of the accessories and the chrome parts which fit seamlessly into the design of the car and also give it its signature Spyker look, I would say look sometimes even better than certain Paganis. I would certainly prefer to look at a Spyker interior than, for instance, a Huayra interior from Pagani. The Zonda F is another thing entirely. That's a fantastic looking interior, but you get the idea. If you can even talk about a car or a manufacturer in the same realm as Pagani or Koenigsegg when it comes to that kind of more oddball artisanship, not just about how fast it is, but about how beautiful the car is inside and out, and also technologically and from an engineering standpoint, that must mean that it's special. And for me, all Spykers have that, even the SUV, the D12, the D8 for instance. Now this one is not necessarily the most performance effective Spyker for bang for buck, because it is expensive. It's a 648 grand car, which is a whole lot of cash. So as I said, it's more for the kind of person who wants to not just win a race, but to have this incredible machine as well. But with that being said, it's certainly worth a look, and it's one of the most unique vehicles featured in TDU2. But that's it for this pick overall. Of course, I will see you guys next time. And for now, as always, thanks for watching.